Hi everybody, and welcome to Yoga with Maria. I'm Maria, and today we're tackling yoga for cyclists or bikers or really runners. This is great for anyone really. We're going to be tackling the calves, the upper back, the hamstrings, the glutes, the hips, and the shoulders. And we're also going to be doing a few stabilizing poses that'll help strengthen out your core. All we're going to need today is a mat and then maybe some blocks if you have them, or books. Books are also great as a replacement for blocks if you don't have them at home. Something else that might be helpful is a blanket or a small cushion. If you don't have that, that's fine, and we can use our mat, we can roll it up, and I'll show you how we do that when we get to those poses. Let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to begin on all fours, tabletop position. So bring your knees directly under your hips and your hands and your wrists directly under your shoulders. Take one big breath in and exhale to let it all go. On the inhale, we're going to drop the belly, squeeze the shoulder blades together, lift the chin, pull the chest forward, lift the tailbone, and on the exhale, you're going to tuck your chin into your chest as you hollow out your belly. Inhale, lift your gaze, lift the chin, pull the shoulders away from the ears as you lift the tailbone. And exhale, chin to chest, abs pull up through to the sky. Inhale, drop the belly, squeeze your shoulder blades together, lift the tailbone. And exhale, round your back like a Halloween cat. Inhale, cow pose. We'll drop the belly. And exhale, cat pose, round the back. A few more times with your own breath. So inhale, drop the belly, look up. Exhale, tuck the chin. Keep going with your own movement and your own breath. One more time, big inhale. Exhale to round it out. And then release. Come back into tabletop position. We're going to be moving into child's pose. So bring your toes together. Bring your knees as wide as the mat. Walk your arms towards the front of the mat. Let your elbows come to the ground and let your forehead rest on the ground. If this is too much for you in your hips, you can bring your knees together. If this is too much for your shoulders, you can bring your elbows as wide as the mat and bring your fingertips to touch. A few breaths here to connect with our breath. Inhale, fill your low back. Exhale to release and melt the heart toward the ground. Inhale, fill your torso up like a balloon. And exhale to release, melt any tension you brought on the mat with you today. Inhale, fill up your torso, your ribs. Exhale, melt all your bones onto the ground. One more big breath in. And exhale to release. You can even sigh it out. Come back up to tabletop position. Your wrist underneath your shoulders. Your knees hip-width apart, directly underneath your hips. You're going to tuck the toes under and very slowly lift the hips up towards the sky. Spread your fingers wide, spread your toes wide. Keep your knees bent here as we come into downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet. Bend one knee and then the other. Ground down through all 10 knuckles, especially the pointer finger, knuckle, and thumb. Your elbow creases want to point forward, want to face forward, just that movement. So spin your biceps forward towards the front of the room. Knees are bent here, but heels are actively reaching toward the earth. On your next inhale, lift your right leg up high to the sky. And exhale, bend your knee, bring your knee into your nose, and step that right foot in between your hands. Coming into high lunge here. Inhale, lift your chest, pull that chest forward, and exhale to drop that back knee. Make sure that your right ankle is directly below your right knee. So straight line of energy there. Option to bring in the blocks here, or the blocks, to help lift your torso up a little bit. Because we don't want to be hunching over, we don't want a rounded back. We want to be able to breathe fully here. Big breath in, lift your chest, and exhale, sink your hips a little closer toward the ground, making sure that your knee isn't passing your ankle. Option to bring a rolled up blanket, or you can roll up your mat to place underneath your knee. And I'll show you how we do that in just a second. You're going to lift that left foot up so that the toes start to point up. You can bring it as far as you can. So if that means you're here, that's fine. And if you can bring it all the way up into here, that's great. I'm going to show you, if your knees hurt, you can also roll up your mat just a little to provide some cushioning for your back knee there. So we're going to place whatever cushioning we need under that knee. And then we lift that left leg, left toes up a little more too. Plant your left hand on the ground, and you can use a block here to keep that lift. An option to bring your right arm up and around to grab that left foot. Reconnect with your breath here. Inhale, lift the chest, and exhale, sink a little more. So bring your hips a little closer to the ground. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, option to bring your right foot a little closer to feel that stretch. And exhale to release everything. Bring your hand to frame your right foot again and bring your left foot back down. I'm going to unroll my mat. But from here, you're going to shift your hips back and stack them on top of your left knee. Your right heel is going to stay on the ground. Your right toes are going to flex back to point at your face. Your front right knee can stay bent here, or you can start to straighten it, but don't push it. You just want a little bit of a stretch here in that back right hamstring. And remember to keep your chest up, keep your torso straight. Bring in some blocks or books if you need help lengthening here. But coming onto the fingertips and just staying here for a few breaths. So inhale, lift your chest, and exhale, sink in a little more to the pose. Inhale to come out of it a little bit, lift the chest, and exhale to bend a little more into the pose. So bring your chest toward your thigh a little more. And inhale, release. We're going to roll forward to a low lunge again. Plant your hands, lift that back knee, coming back into high lunge. On your exhale, you're going to send that right foot back to meet your left, coming into a small plank just for a short period. And then slowly lift your hips, returning to downward facing dog. So your hips and your tailbone are drawing up towards the sky. Pushing down through all 10 knuckles and all 10 fingers. On your next inhale, lift that left leg up this time. Bend your left knee and bring it up to touch your nose, and then step that left foot forward in between your hands. Coming up onto the fingertips, we're going to stay here in high lunge for one breath. So inhale, bring the chest forward, and exhale, drop the knee, untuck the foot. Remember to keep your left ankle directly underneath your left knee. And bring some blocks here if you need to find a little more length. We're going to inhale, send the chest forward, and exhale. Maybe your hips shift a little bit down closer to the earth, but remember not to bring that knee forward. Just moving your hips here. Big breath in, lift the chest, and exhale to sink in a little bit more. You might feel a deep stretch in your right psoas and that right thigh. On your next inhale, lift that right foot with the toes pointing up. Option to bring the left hand to hook onto the right toes and maybe bring that a little closer in toward your body if that feels good. So inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, sink a little bit more into it, so drop the hips towards the earth a little more. Or pull the foot in towards your body a little more. Inhale, and exhale to release. Bring your right hand and your left hand to frame your right foot, or your left foot, sorry. And then we're going to send the hips back to stack on top of that right knee. Left heel grounds, left toes flex back towards your face. And your left knee stays bent here. Long spine, inhale to look up, lift the chest just a little bit, and exhale to sink in. Bring your torso to your thigh. Inhale, lift the chest, come out of it a little bit, and exhale to sink in. You might feel a stretch on the back of your left thigh, your hamstrings. We'll slowly work to straighten the leg here, but only do what feels good for your body at the moment. And release, roll back forward to a low lunge. We're going to plant both hands, tuck the right toes under, lift the back knee, send your left foot to meet your right foot, and lift the hips for downward facing dog. Bend the knees here, but actively reach the heels back toward the earth. Spin those inner elbows forward, the biceps forward, the triceps spin back. Bend your knees as much as you need to here. Inhale, and exhale to drop the knees to the ground. Bring the toes to touch, knees wide, and we'll return to child's pose. This is a pose that you can come back to at any point in time during this flow. So if you get a little tired and down dog, you can bring your knees down to rest. Inhale, fill your torso, fill your belly. And exhale, melt your heart toward the ground. On your next inhale, push up to all fours. We're going to return to tabletop position. Bring your knees directly under your hips and your wrists directly under your shoulders. Then we're going to drop our elbows to replace where our wrists were. And we're going to walk our knees back a little bit and walk the arms forward a little bit until you feel a deep stretch in your upper back, in your shoulders. So your knees are stacked under your hips still here. Ground down through your back feet, the tops of the back feet. Firm your abs up and in, but let your heart melt toward the ground. So your low back is finding stability. Your upper back is finding that stretch and that opening. If this is too much, you can walk your hands back a little, or your knees in a little closer to your midline, to your center. One more big breath in, and exhale, big breath out. Inhale, lift your gaze, and you're going to send your nose and your head through your arms. We're going to drop the hips, coming into Sphinx pose. So you're still on your forearms, and now your elbows are directly underneath your shoulders. Roll your shoulders up, around, and back so that your shoulder blades are kind of nestled in together and squeezing together. Your hands are pressing down into the ground, all 10 fingers spread wide. Your hips are pressing into the mat, and the tops of your toes are pressing into the mat as well. Firm your abs here, and again, we're going to find that stretch through the upper back. So inhale, lift the chest, lift the chin, and exhale to relax, pull the shoulders away from the ears. Inhale, fill up the chest, fill up the belly, and exhale to relax, bring the shoulders away from the ears. On your next inhale, you're going to tuck the toes under, and exhale, firm your abs up and in to bring the hips up, coming into a forearm plank. We're not going to be here for long. Ground down through all 10 knuckles. Keep your abs firm here. Inhale, stay strong, and exhale, drop the knees. Bring your arms back, and we're returning to all fours. Bring your toes to touch and bring your knees wide again. Send your hips back towards your heels. Walk your arms forward towards the front of the mat and rest your forehead on the ground. Returning to your breath here. Feel all these new sensations in your body. Pay attention to how your body feels now versus when you started this practice. Inhale, expand the torso. Exhale to melt your body, relax your bones. One more big breath in. And exhale to push back up to all fours. Spread your fingers wide. Press down through all 10 knuckles, especially that pointer finger, knuckle, and thumb. Rotate your inner elbows forward, keeping those biceps rotating forward and the triceps rotating back. And then slowly start to lift your hips up towards the sky. Lift that tailbone. Pedal out the feet again. Bring one knee in and then the other as you start to settle into this downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your right leg high. Exhale, squeeze your abs, hollow out your belly, pull that right leg and step that right foot through. You're going to stay high lunge here. Make sure that your right knee is directly above your right ankle. We're going to put our hands on our hips and lift that chest up, coming into a high lunge. Push that back thigh up and keep that right knee stacked on top of the right ankle. When you're ready, turn your foot about 30 degrees and bring that back heel down. So your feet are on two different railroad tracks here, and your back foot is at either a 30 or a 45-degree ankle. Coming into Warrior One, lift your hands up to the sky, keeping that right knee stacked above the right ankle. On your next exhale, straighten out that right knee. Bring your hands behind your back and interlace your hands, squeezing your shoulder blades together. Inhale, lift the chest, and exhale, slowly start to lower the torso, coming parallel to the ground. We're going to stop here. Inhale, and exhale. You might feel a stretch in the back of the right leg, that right hamstring. Inhale. Exhale, option to go a little lower. And on your next inhale, lift your chest, lift your torso, returning to this pyramid pose. Release the hands. Bring your hands back onto your hips. Bend that right knee again, lift that back heel. We're going to release our hands onto the floor. Send that right foot back, coming into plank pose. One big breath in here. And exhale, slowly lift your hips up, returning to downward facing dog. Bend your knees here. Your biceps spin forward. Heels actively reaching toward the ground, toward the earth. Inhale, lift that left foot up. Exhale, bring your left knee into your chest and step that left foot forward. That left knee stacked above that left ankle. Inhale, lift the chest, and exhale to settle in. Bring your hands to your hips and inhale to lift that chest, coming into standing high lunge. Big inhale, find stability, and exhale. And then drop that back right heel, bringing your back foot to a 45-degree angle. So coming into warrior one here, lift the arms up, lift the gaze, and exhale to straighten that left knee. Bring your hands interlaced behind your back again, this time the opposite thumb on top. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Big inhale here, and exhale to slowly lower your torso, bringing it parallel to the ground. Inhale in here. You might feel a stretch in the back of that left leg, that back left hamstring. Breathe into that hamstring and exhale to find a little more flexibility, a little bit more release. Inhale and exhale. Option to bring your torso a little closer to that left leg, that left thigh. Inhale, lift your chest, release your arms. Bring your hands back onto your hips. Bend that left knee. Lift that right heel, coming into high lunge again, and then place your hands on the mat, framing that left foot. Bring your left foot back to meet your right. We're going to stay here in plank pose for one breath cycle. So big breath in, find that stability, squeeze your abs, lift your hips just a little, and exhale to drop the knees onto the ground. Send your hips back. Taking a moment of pause here. You can come into child's pose. You can keep your toes tucked under, whatever feels good. I'm just taking a little bit of a pause here to reconnect with our breath. Find your inhales and your exhales. Inhale, returning to tabletop position. Exhale, tuck the toes under, lift the hips, coming into downward facing dog. This is our last downward facing dog for the day. So stay here as long as you want. Otherwise, we'll take a big inhale and exhale to slowly tiptoe your feet up to meet your hands towards the front of the mat. Coming into forward fold. Inhale, slide your hands up to your knees or up to your thighs. Halfway lift. Pull the shoulders away from the ears. Imagine that there's a little teacup resting on the back of your neck. Find length there. On your next exhale, release, bend your knees, bring your thighs to your chest. Release the head to the ground, let gravity take over. Option for ragdoll. Keep that bend in your knee here as much as you need. Nod your head yes, shake your head no. Big inhale and exhale, release your arms to the ground. Bring your fingertips on the earth and heel toe your feet out a little wide. as wide as the mat. Your feet are going to be in a 45-degree angle, and we're going to slowly bend the knees, coming into garland pose. So bring your sits bones down as low as they can come. You might have some trouble if this is your first time bringing your heels to touch the ground, and that's completely okay. You can also have a block under you, or two, to help kind of get you there. But the main point of this is to help release the hips and the low back. So make sure that your back isn't rounded. We're trying to stay straight up through here. If your heels don't touch the ground, that's okay. You can roll up the mat a little bit and put it underneath your heels. Or you can grab a blanket or a small cushion. Your knees are facing the same direction as your toes. I'm going to turn just to face you all. So your knees are facing the same direction as your toes. Option for the hands to touch and bring the thumbs to heart center. And if you do this, actively push your knees into your elbows and push your elbows into your knees. So you have that little bit of action happening here. Inhale, lift the heart, lift the chest. Exhale to sink in a little more. Stay here for a few breaths or as long as it feels comfortable for you. One more big breath in. And exhale to release. Bring your hands onto the ground behind you. We're going to just rock back and sit back onto our sits bones and release our feet slowly. Bringing the soles of the feet to touch and your knees open wide and falling to either side. Coming into Badakunasana, bound angle pose. Start to massage your feet here. Your knees aren't always going to touch the ground, and if you need a little help in the beginning, this is a great area where you can place blocks under your thighs or books so that you're still feeling that stretch, but you're not straining your knees or your hips beyond what you can manage at the moment. Sit up tall, lift the chest, and exhale, option to bring the torso over the soles of your feet. Gazing down at the ground as if you were gazing at your reflection in a pond. Keep that neck long. Inhale. Breathe into your hips, breathe into those thighs. And exhale to sink in a little more. Inhale, fill your belly, fill your torso. And exhale to sink in just a little more. Inhale, lift your torso back up. Remove any props that you might have. And then bring your hands to grab the outsides of your knee and slowly guide your knees back into center. And once you're ready, you can extend your feet out in front of you, keeping your knees bent at a 45-degree angle. Plant your hands behind you, and then bring your right ankle over your left knee. Flex your right toes back. We're going to stay here for a few breaths. Option to bring your left foot a little closer and move that left foot back to bring in everything a little closer into your chest. This is going to be a little bit more of a stretch here. So if you need a little less intensity, just move that left foot forward a little bit. But remember to keep that right foot and those right toes flexed back. You might feel a stretch on the outside of your right hip. Exhale. Walk your left foot out a little bit and release that right foot onto the ground. Now we're going to switch feet, so bring that left ankle over the right knee or the right upper thigh. Flex those left toes back toward your left knee. And then option to bring that right foot in closer to your body a little bit. So you might not have as much flexibility on one side than you do the other, or one side might be a little bit more flexible than the other, and that's okay. Each side is going to be different. Just go until you feel a stretch on either side. And don't push it. Remember to be gentle to your body. On your next exhale, walk that right foot forward a little bit and then release that left foot. You're going to keep your legs bent at that 45-degree angle. Keep your hands where they are and drop your knees over to the left side of the room. So your right knee might come to touch your left ankle. Lift your knees and exhale, drop them to the right side of the room. Inhale, knees up. Exhale, drop them over to the left side of the room. Inhale up. Exhale over to the right side of the room. Inhale, knees up. We're going to slowly lower, so bring your arms straight out in front of you, parallel to the floor, and slowly lower onto your back, one vertebra at a time, keeping those arms straight out and parallel until you reach the mat. And tuck your shoulder blades under, release your arms. You're going to bring your knees close to your sits bones and maybe walk them out about an inch or two. Tuck those shoulders underneath your chest, and your fingertips should barely graze the back of your heels. Your feet and knees are hip-width apart. And on your next inhale, you're going to slowly raise your hips, coming into bridge pose. Bring your chest to your chin and lift your chin to the sky. Squeezing those shoulder blades, option to interlace the fingers underneath your hips. Arms stay on the ground. Squeeze your inner thighs together as if you were holding a block. Inhale, big breath in. And exhale, slowly release your hips back down to the floor. We're going to do that one more time. So knees stay hip-width apart. Your knees are directly over your ankles. Big inhale to lift your hips, finding a straight line of energy from your knees to your hips to your shoulders. Bring your chest to your chin and then lift your chin up to the sky. Squeezing those inner thighs toward one another. Inhale, fill your belly, fill your chest. And exhale to slowly lower your hips back onto the ground. We're going to bring the knees in to the chest and slowly pull your knees out and bring your knees up in towards your armpit. We're going to grab the ankles and we're going to send the heels straight up to the sky, coming into happy baby pose. You can grab the ankles here or the shins, working to grab the outside of your feet. Your shoulders should stay flat on the ground here, so wherever you can reach with your shoulders on the ground, whether that's your ankle or your shin or your feet, go ahead and grab that. You might feel a nice stretch here through your hips. If this is too much, you can bend your knees again and just take a little rest. Otherwise, we'll stay here for a few breaths, bringing those knees up and toward your armpits. Inhale, feel that breath going into your thighs, into your hips. And exhale to sink in a little more. Maybe bring those knees in closer to your torso. Flexing those toes back, pushing the heels up toward the sky. One more big breath in. And exhale, bend your knees and bring your knees back into center. Extend your left leg out onto the floor, keeping your right knee tucked into your chest. You're going to take your left hand to guide that right knee over to the left side of the room. Supine twist here. Bring both arms parallel into a T. Option to gaze over towards your right hand. Inhale. Bring that right knee back into center and into your chest. Bring your left knee into your chest and then extend your right knee out onto the floor. With your right hand guiding that knee over to the left side of the room, over to the right side of the room. Extend your arms out into a T. Option to gaze over to the left, to your left fingertips. Inhale, come back to center. Bring both knees into your chest. Give yourself a big hug. And exhale to slowly release both legs onto the mat. Legs fall wide. Feet flop to either side. Tuck your shoulder blades under your chest. And start to relax your whole body. Inhale. Breathe into your belly. And then fill up your chest. Exhale. Relax all the bones of your body. Let them melt onto the ground. Start to feel gravity take over. Relax your forehead. Relax that space between the eyebrows. Soften your jaw. Soften your lips. Slowly start to let go of any conscious breathing and return to your natural breath. Slowly start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Keeping your eyes closed, bring your knees into your chest. Keeping your eyes closed, extend your arms up overhead for one big cat stretch. Bring your knees into your chest and slowly roll off to one side, making a pillow for your head with your lower arm. And then slowly push up with your upper hand, returning to a seated position. Slowly flicker your eyelids open. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this practice helped complement whatever running or cycling or biking that you're doing. You can come back to this practice as many times as you want. Every time you cycle or bike, it's great to return to just because it does have a little bit of everything in there. But let me know how it went for you in the comments. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. From my heart to yours. Namaste.